Can you help me to reach 999 subscribers? It all began when a man was complaining at the takoyaki store, so he demanded for the manager. He was asking for the compensation for this incident. One of the customers got annoyed, but his friend stopped him from picking up a fight. His friend thought they might be a member of the Ishina Kai, a group of gangsters just like Yakuza. His friend slapped him for bad-mouthing this guy and was scared they might be heard. As Yochi came in, Yoichi's attention came to him for yelling inside the shop. So he confronted him about his problem. The arrogant man quickly stood up and stated that the staff had some nerve to talk him like that. He walked closer to him and complaining about the cigarette filter in his takoyaki, and now he's approaching him with an attitude. While the man yapping in front of him, he refused his allegations. The staff explained there's no smoker in their shop, so there's no way a cigarette filter would end up in his food. So, he advises him not to make false accusations if he doesn't want to be sued for business obstruction. But the arrogant man called his attention. Then, he suddenly grabs the staff's face. He speaks closer to him, demanding to shut up and pay while asking if he even knows who Aniki is. He explained that he's a member of Ishina Kai. He threatened once that he would call his brother, and not only him but his parents and siblings wouldn't see tomorrow. While talking, Yoichi grabbed him by the shirt. He bumped his forehead to him, hitting him a fatal blow. The blonde woman stood up and asked if he was okay while Yoichi swung his arm again. Yoichi understood he was a member of Ishina Kai, and he hit the arrogant man with a single blow. Yoichi aimed his fist and asked if his parents and siblings wouldn't see tomorrow. Yoichi coldly explained that his parents were already killed by his gang members. Ishina Kai, in short, is the largest crime syndicate in Japan. 10 years ago, numerous criminal organizations existed across the country, but they were all unified under the name Ishina Kai. The process was anything but peaceful. Countless gang wars erupted, and they escalated into full-blown gunfights. Even civilians became collateral damage. And Yoichi's mother was one of the victims. She raised him on her own. His mother was only family and everything for him. And the Ishina Kai took his mom away from him. Yoichi hit his final fatal blow, and the man was thrown to the floor. Yoichi stated that acting all high and mighty since he was nothing special at all. The blonde woman behind was shaking and scared upon she was witnessing. Yoichi grabbed the arrogant man's hair and explained that people like Ishina Kai bring misery to others. Yoichi wanted to end him brutally, but a man had appeared on his back. Yoichi saw him, but his uncle quickly kicked him out. He slipped on the ground while the man asked what he was doing. Yoichi's uncle called him while Yoichi was looking at him. His uncle asked how many times he had to remind him that once he caused trouble, he wouldn't go easy as he thought. He scolded Yoichi that he didn't teach him to fight and use it for violence, and Yoichi explained he was the one who started it. Yoichi got mad, clarified that scum like him doesn't deserve to live. While he was explaining, Yoichi's uncle suddenly slapped him. Yoichi's uncle ordered him not to bother coming to the shop tomorrow, that he didn't want some thug manning his store. Yoichi decided to shut his mouth and skipped it for the meantime. Meanwhile, the blonde woman tries to wake him up, saying that it is embarrassing for her. After the incident, the man left the store and dialed a number on his phone. The man called his chairman and confirmed that he had just seen the man he was searching for. The man assured him it was no mistake, and it was exactly the person he was looking for. He reported that they were running a takoyaki shop in that kind of place. Yoichi's uncle was looking suspicious on him, while the man grinned and guaranteed that he would take care of it tonight. Later on the same night, the takoyaki shop has closed. Inside, Yoichi and his uncle were busy cleaning. Then, his uncle called him, and Yoichi asked what he needed. Yoichi's uncle reminded him that what he said earlier was not a joke, and he doesn't need help at the shop. Yoichi's uncle suggested that he needed to go to school, but Yoichi responded that he wasn't interested. Yoichi explained he was not interested, and there was nothing he could do about that. So, Yoichi's uncle got mad, stating he was such a stubborn brat. He advised that he must start thinking about the future, and living like this wouldn't help his mom get back to life. He told that it was time to move forward, and Yoichi confessed that he was scared. Hearing it, Yoichi's uncle was confused and asked if he was serious about it. Yoichi stated that going to school scares him so much. Then, Yoichi asks if he forgets that his mom died. It was his first day of elementary school. He recalled that while he was at school, laughing and playing with his new friends, not aware of what was happening to his mom. Yoichi's mom was shot and left to die in agony and bathed with her own blood. By the time he got the call and rushed over, Yoichi's mom was already cold and lifeless. Suddenly, Yoichi felt nauseous and kneeled on the ground, which his uncle rushed to him. His uncle told him to stop as he didn't have to say anything, and Yoichi understood his motive. Yoichi admitted he was too scared to go to school. He opened up that once he would go to school again, while he was gone, his uncle would disappear as well. So, his uncle felt sad and explained that he wanted Yoichi to be free and happy. Yoichi didn't mind about it and apologized, stating it was impossible for him, as long as the word stays the same. In a world where they run rampant, there was no way Yoichi could be happy. The Ishin Kai is no longer just a criminal organization. With the funds and power of every crime syndicate in the country combined, they've become one of Japan's 5 great economic powers and now operate under the name New One Group. This country can no longer do anything but turn a blind eye to their tyranny while a group of people could be seen walking. Yoichi knew there were only 2 choices left, and it turns out they were heading to Yoichi's shop. Yoichi told his uncle that either they'd disappear or he would. Suddenly, a group of men appeared at the store, and Yoichi's uncle saw them. Yoichi's uncle got anxious as he knew what they had come for. The group of men had a weapon on them and started to pull it out. They quickly rushed towards them, while Yoichi's uncle put himself in front and told Yoichi to run. The unknown man dashed his knife, but Yoichi's uncle dodged it and aimed his fist at it. Yoichi's uncle successfully throws a fatal blow on the unknown man, but then, a follow-up attack by its other companion and Yoichi's uncle getting slashed by them. Yoichi's uncle didn't have a choice but to endure the pain. Yoichi called his uncle while he was blocking the attacks and suggested running out of the place. Shocked by the current situation, another man sneaks behind his back, pulling out his sword. Yoichi notices the man who had been behind him. Then the unknown man stuck his knife through his eye. The unknown man tries to strike him one more time, but this time, his uncle blocks it using his back. Because of that, his uncle had been brutally injured on his back and torn his shirt, while the other man ordered to grab Yoichi's uncle. As they were getting up, Yoichi felt the wound on his face, while his uncle had a lot of cuts on his body as well. Yoichi quickly asked if he was okay, but Yoichi was surprised upon seeing it. He recognized something was on the back of his uncle and started to think about it. Not even once did Yoichi see his uncle's back before. Yoichi's face turned pale, and his face was full of disappointment, as he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Yoichi's uncle turned around and knew Yoichi understood the mark on his back. He didn't know how to take it, and for the first time in his life, he saw the broad of his uncle's back. Yoichi confirmed that was the unmistakable mark and asked if he was a member of Ishin Kai. Years ago, Yoichi still remembered when he was sitting beside his deceased mother. A man came in and asked if he was Yoichi, and Yoichi nodded that it was him. It was the day Yoichi first met his uncle, and his uncle complimented him that he had grown a lot. Yoichi's uncle knew that he was small back then and might not remember it and asked if he knew who was him. Yoichi's uncle introduced himself as Shigeru Yamada, one of his father's old friends. Even though he came out of nowhere, had no father, and didn't have a single family left, Yoichi felt relief that his uncle Yamada showed up. Yoichi felt regret that he should have been more careful way back. He couldn't blame himself since he was still just a kid back then, but he knew he was old enough to know better. Maybe, deep down, Yoichi wanted to believe that Yamada was different, and he quickly hugged him. Due to loneliness and sadness, Yoichi couldn't hold it in any longer and cried out loud, glad that he had someone he could rely on. Yamada calmed him down and teased him that he couldn't breathe. Yamada is surprised Yoichi got his father's strength and assures him that from now on, Yamada will protect him. And just like that, Yamada became his family, as if they were truly a father and son. Yoichi knew Yama was his one and only irreplaceable family. Back from reality, Yamada killed the 3 unknown men. Yamada just stood up, covered his hands with blood, and the 3 men were lying lifeless on the ground. Yoichi didn't know anything about Yamada's past, while Yama turned around and looked at him. Yamada walked closer to Yoichi and suggested that he should pack his things as soon as possible. Yamada explained they couldn't stay there any longer, but Yoichi didn't care and demanded an explanation. Yamada stated they would talk about it later since there was no time for that right now. Yoichi was infuriated and insisted on an explanation. He asked what was it all about, those 3 unknown men and the mark on his back, if he was indeed part of the Ishin Kai gang. Yoichi started to question why he would lie and take care of him all these years. Yoichi hated that someone from the Ishin Kai gang got closer to him, even though his mother was murdered by his group. Suddenly, a man spoke out and said it was simple, and Yoichi and Yamada shifted their attention to that man. As the man walks into the store, he pulls out his knife. Turns out that it was the man earlier who explained to Yoichi that Yamada was trying to protect him. The man introduces himself as Kajji from a New One Group, formerly named Ishin Kai, stating he'd come to kill young man's Yoichi. Yoichi was surprised that someone called him a young master even though it was their first meeting. Yoichi's curiosity goes high, and he asks how Kajji knows his name, but Yamada steps in, suggesting Kajji to shut up. Kajji was surprised that Yoichi didn't know anything about his identity. Yamada yelled and told Kajji to zip his mouth. Kajji is shocked that Yoichi has been kept in the dark and clarifies that his father's name is Tomoya Shindo. Kajji revealed that Yoichi's father was a founder of Ishin Kai, and Yoichi's face was in disbelief. In his mind, he couldn't believe that his father was a founder of Ishin Kai. Kajji stated that someone was looking for him throughout this year, while Yamada aimed his fist at Kajji and told him to shut up. Kajji countered as he struck his knife on Yamada's hands. He exposed that the new group executive director was Yamada Shigeru. Yamada was one of Ishin Kai's founding members and its third in command. Kajji removed his knife and said that he'd mellowed out over the years. Kajji was looking forward to hearing more of his legendary exploits. Kajji smirked and expressed his gratitude for meeting Yamada. Yamada hits a fatal blow on Kajji, saying he was annoyed by his yapping. Yochi was confused and sought answers while he asked why he kept denying it. He asked if his father was the true founder of the Ishinkai gang and why his mother was killed by them. While Yoichi was talking, Yamada shifted his attention as he saw Kajji getting up. Yoichi asked if he was the founder's son and why he was being targeted now. Yamada stated that he will explain everything later and suggests that Yoichi run. Yoichi couldn't help himself and yelled no to dodge his question, and he wouldn't go without him. Yamada picks up the knife on the floor, while Yoichi insists on coming with him. He screamed Yoichi's name and just listened and obeyed what he instructed to him, as he blocked Kajji's attack. As he opened his eyes, Yoichi was shocked at what he saw. Yamada explained why he couldn't tell the truth, because he made a promise to Yoichi's father. Turns out that Yamada had been stabbed in his chest and told Yoichi to protect him no matter what. Kajji teasingly said it's a touching promise with the first chairman, and he couldn't let that happen. He twisted the knife to sink it even more, while Yamada endured the pain. Yamada grabbed Kajji's shirt and pulled it towards to him. He struck his knife on its back, and blood scattered as he told him it was not over. Kajji smiled that even Yamada had injured so bad, still standing, and thought that he didn't take him easy. Then, Yamada ordered Yoichi to run and that he had to protect him while fighting Kajji's subordinates. Yamada begs Yoichi to just go to save himself and guarantees not to worry about him. He assures Yoichi that he won't die and makes him promise. Yoichi didn't believe what Yamada promised to him since he broke it before. He thought that fear of death had driven him to obey those orders, while Kajji gave him a malevolent grin. Yoichi didn't know what to do, as the questions and confusion had insanely driven on his mind. Without much thought, Yoichi ran out of the store. He ran as fast as he could, just to get away from that store. He didn't know how far he ran and didn't remember where he was going. Yoichi wishes he didn't want to remember it, as he was at the corner of the street. Yoichi was surprised that a guy suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and that day, his memory cut off. The man grabbed him and pulled him that day. A little while later, Yoichi, lying on the ground. Yoichi had been asleep for a long time, and later on, he woke up realizing that something was odd. He quickly sat down, gasping for air, and wondered where he was. Then, he saw something that made him anxious. 3 men had been watching him since he got there, and he started trembling in fear as one of them approaching. Yoichi asked who they were, while the blue-haired guy knew he was fully awake, and the orange-haired guy was amazed how he slept a lot. Yoichi started to get mad and knew that those guys were from Ishinkai. The black-haired man warmly welcomed Yoichi and called him young master. Even though he was weak, Yoichi stated that he didn't like the way he politely greeted him when you were about to kill someone and asked to stop calling him young master. The orange-haired guy just smiled and jokingly told Yoichi that he was scary. Yoichi's body was shaking, and he couldn't let it be dead as he needed to know the truth behind this situation. He wanted to know the truth behind the death of his mother and his father's connection to Ishinkai. Yoichi recalled that Yamada made a promise to his father that no matter what, he would protect him. As the man walked close to him, Yoichi got even more nervous that he still had many questions to ask. Due to frustration, Yoichi throws a punch at the man, stating he couldn't accept dying like this, but he was shocked the man avoided his attack. The man kneeled in front of him, and Yoichi was surprised about what he did. He explained they were summoned urgently by Executive Director Yamada. The man assured him that from now on, they would protect him, while his other companion had kneeled as well. The orange-haired man got annoyed and asked what he was doing. The blue-haired man suggested to shut his mouth since they were in the middle of a conversation. Yoichi directly asks who he is. The black-haired man introduced himself as Sato Yashin, number 4 of Ishinkai, and the managing director of the New One Group. Yashin guarantees that they are on his side, and Yoichi is confused why some people from Ishinkai were trying to kill him and are now siding with him. Yashin took a deep breath and clarified that it was the rightful way. Yashin confides that Chairman Shindo died 10 years ago, the day before the Great Unification. During the final battle against Tokyo's last stronghold, the Shutokai, Chairman Shindo perished while fighting on the front lines. Chairman Shindo left behind 2 final wills, one even in his death. The grand unification must be accomplished, and the New One Group must be established. 2. Once the New One Group is formed, all of his assets will be inherited by Yoichi's mother and Yoichi. It was a shock to them all since no one had ever heard that Chairman Shindo had a family. Chairman Shindo must have kept it all a secret until his final moments to protect Yoichi's mother and Yoichi. But despite his efforts, Chairman Shindo's will fell into the hands of a man who sought to claim the top of Ishinkai. That man was the number 2 of Ishinkai, now the current chairman of the New One Group named Mikado. Mikado, the man who holds absolute control over New One. Mikado was the one who took Yoichi's mother's life. And Mikado was planning to get rid of Yoichi as well. Yashin hands him a handkerchief, and Yoichi notices it. Yashin was concerned that his wound was reopening again. Yashin explained that he understood what he felt, and he must remain calm. Yoichi asked why they had kept him alive until now, and they could have just killed him back then along with his mother. Yashin explained to Yoichi that they didn't keep him alive, it's just that they couldn't kill him. If things had gone according to plan, Yoichi would have met a brutal end right in front of his mother's casket, and Yoichi was surprised. Yashin made Yoichi realize that if Yamada hadn't shown up at his mother's funeral, he wouldn't be here. Yashin understood that Yoichi had heard little about Yamada and explained that he had been protecting him all this time. The only reason Yoichi survived this long is because Yamada was always by his side. Yoichi froze for a moment, realizing that all of his questions were answered. He asked where Yamada was right now, to which Yashin explained that he didn't know. Yashin stated that after the incident, they lost contact with him, and Yoichi got mad after hearing it. Yoichi ordered them to find him, and he couldn't let something bad happen to him. But Yashin declared they couldn't do that as Yamada ordered them not to approach him. The orange-haired guy just laughed and told him he was funny. Seeing their reaction, Yoichi was getting confused as to why they were all so calm. Yashin assured him that Yamada was someone who wouldn't die so easily, and Yamada had already shown up the day before. Yashin suggested that he must trust Yamada's words. Yoichi realized they trusted Yamada so much and remembered that Yamada promised him that he wouldn't die. Yoichi knew he was right, and even since the day he came into his life, he kept his promise ever since. All Yamada did was to protect him all this time. Yoichi just sat down and thought about what he could do from now on, and Yashin spoke up and invited him to come with them. Yoichi's silence suddenly breaks, and clarified if they were going to protect him too, so Yashin agreed about it. But then Yoichi refuses any help from them. Yoichi explained couldn't rely on others and hide forever. He knew if Yamada came back safely, Mikado was targeting his life, and it wouldn't change. Yoichi decided to fight on his own. He assures everyone that he will kill Mikado with his own hands and avenge his mother. Yoichi promises them that he will take everything back. Yashin clarified that the battle was beyond reason and asked if he was truly prepared for that. Yoichi was determined and knew if he did that things will be okay after. He instructed Yashin to help him become better. Yashin smirks and tells him the truth that he was reckless, has no special skills, and can't even protect himself. Yoichi didn't hear it, but he knew Yashin was right. So, Yashin gives a ray of hope to Yoichi, stating there's a perfect way to gain both strength and influence at the same time. Yoichi was determined and told Yashin that once he told it, he would do anything. 2 years went by, sunny day in Tokyo City. At the place of Shinjuku, the people there were confused as they saw a group of men fighting. The bald man asked how long he's gonna wait and advised that if he borrowed money, he should pay it full. The old man was covered with bruises and shaking as he assured him he would pay twice the principal amount. The bald man struck another blow due to his disbelief. The bald man didn't care about the old man's promise and reminded him that he was the cause if he didn't pay in full while he continued punching the old man. Meanwhile, the man was infuriated the way he treats the old man, while his friend told him to shut up or they might hear him. The man clarified if they were from the New One group and wondered why the government let them do whatever they wanted, but the man heard him ranting and shifted his attention on him. The ponytailed man walks closer to the man and sees him. The ponytailed man asked if he was blaming them for Japan's situation right now. He stated that the world was already decomposing and asked if he had heard of the survival of the fittest. He dared the man to duel him, while another man stepped into the scene. He mocked the man, saying it was impossible for him, while the man was shaking for his life. As the ponytailed man swung his fist at the man, saying he was a nobody, the bald man shifted his attention and saw something that froze him for a moment. The ponytailed man was kneeling on the ground, on a young man with uniform. The bald man was infuriated and asked if he did that to him. Turns out it was Yoichi, and the bald man threatened Yoichi that he will pay for it. The bald man attacks Yoichi, and Yoichi blocks his attack. Yoichi hit the bald man with a fatal blow under its jaw and hit him with a lethal kick, as his septum ring had detached from his nose. The people in that place were surprised. After that, Yoichi walked away like nothing happened, while the man couldn't believe that a high schooler took down a member of Ishin Kai. The man clarified that Yoichi's uniform came from the popular school in their town, and the man agreed. The man explained it was the breeding pen of the New One group, which was called Ishin High School. Back in the past, Yashin explained that Ishin High School is a place to cultivate the strength and unity of the organization, and most graduates end up joining the New One group. Yashin declared that he must enroll in that school. Yoichi clarified that he wanted him to become Ishinkai's dog, and Yashin was kind of shocked. Yashin explained that he would conquer that school. That place gathers promising candidates from all over the country. They are the future of Ishinkai and the New One, their most powerful assets. But if they become your enemies, they'll be a major threat. Yashin suggested that he must seize control of it. He stated that Yoichi must take advantage of everything the school has to offer. Back from the present, Yoichi will use the school as a stepping stone and take everything from the New One group. Ishin High School is a private school established by the New One group to train young talent, graduates assigned to one of the many subsidiary businesses. The school is divided into 3 main departments: the administration department, the secretary department, and the business management department. The school puts the most emphasis on the business management department. Following the precedent set by Ishina Kai, the predecessor of the new One Group, a man with sunglasses stated that it was founded on violence. It was the 10th day of the annual Ishin High School Business Management Department, and the man clarified such an outdated and potentially controversial policy as he asked if anyone understood how it works. All the students were looking at each other and didn't know how to answer it. The man belittled the students, saying that they looked like a batch of weaklings. Later on, a student raised his hand, catching the attention of the man. The student answers that it is to maintain order. The man was delighted and stated it was exactly the answer that he wanted to hear. The man explained that the new one was originally formed when Ishina Kai unified various organizations nationwide into a single corporation. Currently, each organization's leader is responsible for overseeing a specific business sector. Ishina Kai sits above the new one, monitoring and managing everything with an iron grip. In other words, a new one's business operations are ruled by strength, and that means Ishina Kai must be the most powerful of them all. The man stated that the business management department exists to cultivate the next generation of Ishina Kai members. He asked the student earlier if he was a new student, to which the student agreed and introduced himself as Iwabuchi Takaroo. The man judged Takaroo for his appearance, saying he looked old, while the other student was flabbergasted that it was the so-called striking Takaroo and their class got a bad draw. On the other hand, Yochi listened to the students talking about Takaroo. A student chuckled and asked if it wasn't hilarious as Yochi shifted his attention to the student. The blonde student couldn't believe they were scared by striking Takaroo. He looked at Yochi, wondering if they were actually saying that with a straight face, and thought nothing but jokes for him, while Yochi was wondering what he was talking about. Yochi got annoyed and asked how he got the nerve to talk to him, but Toshiro smacked his face, saying he could hear him. Toshiro frankly stated that the real joke is the blonde man, acting tough with his long hair. So, the blonde smirked and told him that he was already flopped and asked what he was doing. Toshiro got annoyed and clarified that he wasn't in this place to be a laughingstock. Toshiro grabbed his shirt, aiming his fist, saying if he was not saying nice things at all, he must shut up his mouth. The man saw what Toshiro was doing as he called him and asked why he was making a scene in the middle of the ceremony. Toshiro felt anxious hearing he was called by that man. He stopped immediately while the man instructed him to get up closer to him as soon as possible. Toshiro quickly obeyed what the man said and ran towards him. The blonde man got more excited that Toshiro was about to get chewed, and Yoichi called him. Yoichi told the blonde man that he was familiar with him and asked who he was or if they had met before. The blonde man smiled, saying they hadn't met before. He explained that he just started talking cause he was standing next to him. The blonde man pointed his hands to Yoichi, stating that Yoichi was an interesting guy. Yoichi wondered why he called interesting, and the blonde man explained it was his job had met all kinds of people. The blonde man confesses by just looking at Yoichi's eye that he was the real deal. Yoichi knew that the blonde man was not joking and he was spitting all the facts, which he was wondering who he was. The blonde man was delighted and expressed that he would love to hear Yoichi more. Then, he told Yoichi to save the fun later on and shifted his attention to Toshiro, where was. Toshiro bowed, stating he was glad to meet the man named Professor Chino, and Chino was surprised that he knew him. Toshiro knew everybody knows his since he was a living legend of Ishina Kai, but Chin didn't fell off by his compliment, saying it was some childish crap. Chino asked why he was here in this school, and Toshiro answered to become a loyal dog of Ishina Kai. Chino told him to stop talking, explaining they were not looking for useless people. They needed people who can handle themselves like a real man. Then, the bald man beside Chino grabbed his arm, saying that young people like him all had to do yapping and being arrogant. Chino explained that the man standing behind him had just retired from Ishina Kai last week. The man agreed and explained that's how the generation shift works, and asked Toshiro what it really takes to carry the new era. The bald man declared to prove it with strength and punched Toshiro in the face. He quickly grabbed Toshiro's hair and struck him again, and pushed his body on the ground. The bald man explained that anyone who couldn't do it would be expelled from the school, while Toshiro's face had been brutally injured. The bald man challenged each and every student to come up on stage to fight him, which the students were shocked. The other students started to complain, saying no one informed them about it, and they got kicked out on the first day, while the other students felt pressured about it. The bald man was a former Yakuza, but in reality, this is all a lie. Losing there wouldn't actually get them expelled. It's just a kind of performance. A demonstration of just how trash this world is, saying how truly inexperienced you are, since that was the only lesson this exercise serves to teach. Chino was looking at the students below him and mocked them for being scared and called them pathetic. Then, his attention turned as Yochi stepped onto the stage. Yochi knew it only applied to those who just wanted an ordinary school life and wanted to control Ishina Kai. The bald man wickedly smiles and teasingly asks if he is stepping on his own. Chino got interested at such a young age. He got a kind of spirit. The bald man quickly swung his fist, saying he wouldn't hold back. Yochi immediately reacted, as he blocked his attack using his bare hands, and knew that Bald Man was infamous for showing no mercy even against amateurs. Chino widened his eyes and couldn't believe it. Well, the blue-haired girl was amazed that Yochi actually stopped his punch. The blonde man was frozen for a while and smirked. He knew he wasn't wrong. Yochi twisted the bald man's arm, and the bald man kneeled on the ground. The bald man got infuriated as he swung his fist again, stating he was going to kill Yochi. Yochi immediately avoided it and swung his fist towards the bald man. He struck it with a fatal blow and continuously punched all over his chest. The bald man was pushed to the ground and defeated shamelessly. Yochi confidently stated that he was looking forward to working with them. Chino was surprised and couldn't believe that someone like him had taken down a former member of Ishina Kai. Chino put a wicked smile on his face and knew Yochi was the one he'd been waiting for. As he was staring at Yochi, he recalled that for the past few years, he had only the mediocre ones and no expectations for this year either. Chino expected that Yochi was the one who could entertain him from the entrance ceremony and thought he was a prodigy. So, Chino asked what his name was. Yochi was hesitant at first and had no choice but to introduce himself as Yochi. The blonde-haired guy was glad as he heard his name for the first time. Yochi clarified that his full name was Ukami Yochi. 1 month ago, in an abandoned storage place, Yochi was doing his regular training when Yashin taught him to use a false name. Yashin explained that once he revealed his true identity, the chairman's son would join this plan, and it would be safe for him. Yashin believed that he should hide his identity. He knew Yochi was smart enough among the new students, and Yochi clarified if he meant to say is he would stay mysterious, which Yashin stated his own opinion. Yochi smirked and asked if he was sure about it. He clarified if Yashin was saying that he was strong, which Yashin was not happy about. Yochi pulled his collar and asked what he meant about his collar. As Yashin walks closer to Yochi, saying he already explained that the collar could only be removed when he is recognized as a human. Yashin reminds Yochi that he was still a dog and gets annoyed he was just called a dog. Yashin pulled out his weapon, encouraging him to become stronger so he wouldn't call a dog anymore. He aimed his weapon at Yochi, daring to fight with him. Back in reality, a scar was engraved on his neck aligned to his collar. In the room, Yochi was not happy with what he was seeing right now. A blue-haired girl was staring at him, and Yochi asked who she was. The blue-haired girl introduced herself as Umi, and Yochi asked if she needed something. Umi compliments Yoichi's toughness and requests to be her friend. Yoichi declined her offer, saying he didn't intend to make friends with anyone. Umi was flabbergasted and asked why he wouldn't, and Yoichi explained he didn't need anyone. Yoichi called Umi trash, and their other classmates heard it, and their attention shifted to Yoichi. One of their classmates asked what he meant by calling her trash, while Umi clarified if he meant that everyone in this room was weak trash compared to himself. Yoichi agreed, saying losers should act like losers and will be worshipped by them. He assured Umi that everybody would crawl on his feet, and it would not take long for that to happen. Their classmates were slowly approaching where Yoichi was. Provoking the masses was Yoichi's answer to solidify his position as quickly as possible. The business department was divided into 2 classes, A class, where Yoichi was, and B class. To stand at the top of the grade, Yoichi first needed to dominate his class. From what he saw at the entrance ceremony, the ones with real potential seemed to have ended up in B class, and Yoichi planned to make a move before factions started forming. He knew that provoking them all at once and finishing it all at once, but Yoichi had some plan for Umi. He could have ended up using her to trigger their classmates and her close friends as well. Umi was amused by his confidence, wondering if he was really going out of his way to turn the entire class against him. Umi dared Yoichi to see what he got as she stood up, matching their classmate at her back. Yoichi stood up as well, challenging them to come over him and assured they would take down together. One of their classmates asked if he was the one who said they would crawl at his feet, as he wondered which one of them would end up on the ground while the others were preparing their fist. Umi teasingly said that she would be crawling at his foot, as her hands were pointing at him. But then Umi declares that if they couldn't win, then they were useless, and they mustn't waste their chance to become a skilled underling. The bald student was surprised that Umi was switching sides now and calling her out. One of their classmate was infuriated and told her that if she want to flirt with men so badly, she should go to Kabuki-cho and play around there, while Umi didn't care who she gonna flirt with. Umi looks at Yoichi again, asking why she had to listen to them and telling them that they were just depending on others. Umi put a wicked smile on her face, saying they were all here trying to ride the name value of Ishina Kai, and suggested they stop being hypocrites. She frankly told them to put some shame on themselves, while Yoichi found out that Umi was not an ordinary girl. Yoichi doubted if she would call her shameless or just someone with guts as well. He knew Umi was a different breed from the others, based on her sense of confidence. Umi notices Yoichi staring at her, and suggested to stop looking at her like that, which Yoichi was confused. Umi explained that Yoichi was her type, and it made her heart race, and Yoichi found it cringy. Yoichi told her to stop saying weird craps, but Umi insisted what she said was true, while their classmate got annoyed what they were doing. The bald man threatens Yoichi and Umi that he will crush both of them at once. Meanwhile, Professor Chino had arrived on the room saying it was a school full of dropouts. He told the bald man to stop making a fuss and acting all high and mighty in class, which the bald man turned around quickly. They were shocked that Chino was their homeroom teacher, but Chino told them to stop calling him a legend. The students apologized to Chino, saying they were going to sit down, but Chino stated he didn't order them to sit down. Chino instructed them to continue what they were doing, and all of them were confused. As he put his folder, Chino announced the first period would be choosing a class representative. The term lasts until the end of the semester, and they should pick the strongest student in the class. Chino stated that being the class representative comes with various perks and assured them he would explain it later on. Chino told them to prior the fight and must only one would remain, and the last one standing becomes the class representative. While the other students turned back to Yoichi again, Chino asked if they wanted some advice. He suggested to them that it's more efficient to take down the strongest one first while everyone was looking at Yoichi. Umi spoke up and warned Yoichi that everyone was going to target him. She stretched her body and assured him not to worry, that she would stay on Yoichi's side until the end. Umi requested to Yoichi that if he wins, he would take good care of her as class representative, while Yoichi was not happy, saying he would never agreed to her requested. Umi suggested to Yoichi that he must watch her closely, explaining she was a genius at crawling at people's feet. Body size doesn't lie at all. Some say that technique can make up for a size difference, but that only applies when facing an amateur. Against someone with real experience, technique might as well be meaningless. Yoichi thought a 160 centimeters woman like Umi could defeat a 180 centimeters 90 kilograms man, while the bald man swung his fist at Umi. Biologically speaking, women naturally build less muscle than men. For example, in powerlifting, women could only lift about 65% of what men in the same weight class can handle, and winning should be impossible. The bald man was confident and aimed his fist at Umi's face. As his fist was closer to Umi's face, Yoichi was surprised upon witnessing something, and Yoichi didn't know that Natsum Umi was different from the others. Umi blocked it by using a grappling submission move while holding his arms straight. Umi got even more excited and called out his other companions to relax. She explained that if they misbehaved too much, they were gonna get seriously hurt, while the bald man dared her that she couldn't do it. Umi started to count 1 up to 3, with his legs around his torso, and immediately pulled it up to break his shoulder. The bald man's companions started to rush towards Umi, and calling her a bitch. The two men threaten Umi that they will kill her, while Umi stands up after defeating the bald man. Umi confidently stated that they were lucky enough, and started to laugh wickedly. The man swung his arms, and Umi quickly dodged them, saying it isn't a real fight. Umi struck her Renquan technique into his neck, which he got off guard. The man held his neck, and Umi struck another attack called Denku, and it hit on the side of his body. The other man started to swing his fist at Umi. The man was caught off guard as Umi used her Jinchu technique and hit his face so badly. Umi swung her fist, saying it was for the finisher. Umi struck her Hyuki technique to the man's head, leaving a fatal blow. Umi proudly said she went easy on them this time and chose not to gone all out. She confidently swiped her nose, saying if she didn't show mercy, they would be dead already. The other students started to feel anxious and told her she was being fraudulent by using weak spots in her opponents. Umi didn't care what the other students said and declared that she had won. Umi defended herself and insisted that she didn't do anything dirty on their fight, and laughed at them. Yoichi starts to wonder why they accuse Umi of not being fair in fighting. That was undeniably flawless victory. While Umi was making fun of them, Yoichi thought that calling it dirty just proves one thing. They only saw the surface. Yoichi recalled the bald man and Umi's fight. The real truth is that Umi read her opponent's attacks perfectly, dodged with precision while sweeping their legs to throw them off balance, locked in a flying armbar in an instant and accurately struck multiple weak points, all while holding back. Yoichi understood all of it, and it wasn't about playing dirty, and it was about an overwhelming gap in strength. But then a man clarified if there's such thing as dirty in a fight. The long-haired student caught Umi off guard as he swung the chair, saying he couldn't agree more. Umi was surprised and froze for a moment while the long-haired student told her that victory belongs to the one who acts first. As it was striking Umi, Yoichi quickly responded by kicking the chair out of Umi. Then, Yoichi punched the long-haired student in the face and received a fatal blow. The long-haired student had pushed away, ending up saving Umi from him. Umi was amazed and told Yoichi that she thought she had just fallen in love. The long-haired student chuckled and asked if Yoichi was serious about his decision. The long-haired student got more excited, saying he was even more excited since Yoichi was the person he'd been dying to crush with his own hands. He stated that Yoichi looked like the strongest one in their class, and assured once he could beat Yoichi the position of Class A representative was him. He asked Yoichi why he wanted to be the class representative, and if he heard Chino there were perks and might even help when he tried to join Ishin Kai. Yoichi didn't bother to answer and asked why he wanted to join the Ishin Kai, to which the long-haired student stated he didn't have to ask questions like that. The long-haired student confidently responded that to gain power in this world, since Ishin Kai is a symbol of strength, as he starts to daydream about a lot of women luring him. Umi got disappointed and called the long-haired student a gross one. He started yelling and explaining that was the main reason why he was going to take down Yoichi, to become a class leader, and the higher-ups in Ishin Kai would notice him. Yoichi called him a pathetic and desperate one. He asked the long-haired student if he was serious that he could stand above him, while the long-haired student was confused. Yoichi asked if it was worth it to achieve that half-assed goal. He explained that at that point, he had no choice but to secure the class representative position. The long-haired student said that he wanted to hear Yoichi's so-called goal. Yoichi explained that it isn't that obvious why he chose this school, but it says it all, while the students in Chino were getting thrilled in their conversations. Yoichi clarified that he wouldn't settle for just joining Ishin Kai, and Chino was surprised upon hearing it. Yoichi explained that his main goal was to get to the very top of Ishin Kai, and Chino, the long-haired student, and Umi were surprised after hearing it. The long-haired student asked what just Yoichi said, and Yoichi stated he would put it in words that he could understand. Yoichi said that he was going to take new one group for himself. A goal like that is the bare minimum if he wanted to lead the class. Yoichi ordered the long-haired student to follow him, while Umi was left speechless. Yoichi explained that he would take him to a level beyond Ishin Kai. He stated that if words alone weren't enough to convince him, then he dared him to come at him as many times as he wanted. Yoichi threw his uniform and assured the long-haired student that he would make it crystal clear who really was him. The long-haired student was confused and asked what he meant. He clarified if he was aiming for the top of Ishin Kai, and Yoichi agreed. Yoichi stated that he could prove himself and climb his way up. The top is just the final step for him. He announced his plan that, as part of that process, he would first take control of this class. Yoichi clarified that he was dead serious about it and made things clear. The long-haired student couldn't believe what Yoichi said. He laughed hysterically and called Yoichi crazy as they ended up in the same class. Yoichi ended up staring at the long-haired student, not afraid of what he was doing. The long-haired student is still laughing, saying he likes Yoichi, and declares that he will follow him. The long-haired student walks closer to Yoichi and introduces himself as Ikari Tenma, stating that was the loyal dog standing by his side from now on. Ikari warned Yoichi that if he ever decides he's not worthy to be his master, Ikari gave him a death glare, saying he would sink his teeth into his throat without mercy. His other classmates were anxious upon hearing his name, as Ikari Tenma was pretty famous. They called Ikari a mad dog loyal to anyone who pays but just as quick to turn on them. They heard he got busted 2 months ago for running drugs. His friend was shocked that Ikari was in this school, and his friend explained it might be someone from New One who pulled some strings for him. Getting one kid out of trouble is nothing for them. Yoichi didn't show any interest, saying he didn't care at all, but if he really wanted to prove it with actions. Ikari was delighted and agreed with Yoichi. Ikari kneeled on the floor, stating that since it was a dog's instinct, they lived by a clear master-servant hierarchy. He announced that Yoichi recognized him. Chino called Yoichi, announcing that starting this day, he was the class representative of A class. As he removed his glasses, he asked Yoichi if he had forgotten where he was. Chino ordered him to come with him, stating that as his homeroom teacher, he couldn't just ignore what he just said. He explained that they were discussing something. So, they were slowly walking out of the room while Umi left and froze for a moment. Umi put an awkward smile on her face. Both of them reached the faculty room. Chino handed a cup of chocolate drink, and Yoichi thanked him. As they sit down, Yoichi is confused about what Chino is doing. Yoichi clarified that it wasn't supposed to be a lecture, and Chino blushes and says no, explaining he just said that to sound like a proper homeroom teacher. Yoichi asked if something good had happened, but Chino's mind he was excited that it's been ages since they've had a fiery one join us. 4 years, they've been scolded from the top for failing to produce anyone worthwhile. He waited for someone like Yoichi, an ambitious honor student like him. Chino felt dumbfounded, saying Yoichi got the nerve to say climbing to the top of Ishin Kai and taking new one under control. He stated that Yoichi's ambition was incredible, which Yoichi was surprised by. Chino explained most of the recruits these days have nothing but filthy little schemes in their heads, and someone like Yoichi's plan was rare. Chino described that both Ishin Kai and New One had changed. Now they were nothing but dense thugs who only wanted an easy life. He mentioned Yoichi's father and wondered what he would say about this situation if he saw it right now. After hearing his father's name, Yoichi asked if it was different in the past, and Chino was confused. Yoichi explained that since Ishinka has always been an antisocial force, it built a world where violence controls money and power. He repeated his question, what was the old Ishinkai is different from the one now? Chino saw the expression on Yoichi's face, saying he wanted to stand at the top, yet he looked awfully critical, so Yoichi clarified what was true to Ishinkai's essence. Chino responded that essence was like this, as he showed his hand had been cut off. Yoichi is confused and asks about his hand, but Chino declares that he has some questions. Chino asked what Yoichi thought he was after when he lost his left hand. What did he trade for it? Yoichi responded that for the survival of Ishinkai. Chino stated it was wrong, and Yoichi answered it's his own life, which Chino disagreed about it. He announced that the correct answer is he didn't do anything at all, and Yoichi was flabbergasted. Chino explained that he lost his left hand and left eye while trying to protect Yoichi's father, and ended up retiring, and because of that people started calling him the legend. Chino thanked them. He'd been living a comfortable life since then. He stated that he never put his body on the line for something like that, as he recalled that day of the incident, explaining that his body just moved its own. Chino illustrates that he didn't care what happened to him that day. He just wanted to protect Yoichi's father. Chino declares that was how much of a man he was, and back then, Ishinkai was bound of that kind of bond. As he wiped his clothes, he stated it was the difference between a half-baked gang and a true organization. That was the essence of Ishinkai. Chino expresses that he doesn't know why Yoichi is aiming for the top of Ishinkai and advises that if he really wants to achieve that goal, he needs to become a leader, not a ruler. Yoichi started to wonder what kind of man his father was, what kind of life he had lived. That even today some people was still supporting him even after his death. As they stood up, Chino announced that their meeting was officially done, but he recalled his role as a class representative. Chino explained that he must think of it the same as in middle school, which Chino stated he understood even though he was a school dropout before. Chino suddenly stopped as he had something important to tell. He suggested not to pick fights with Class B, that if he messed with them, he could end up dead. Yoichi pondered and asked what he meant. Chino explained that he didn't go around picking fights while spouting stuff about reaching the top of a Shinkai like he did earlier, which Yoichi asked what the difference was from Class A. Chino simply explained that they are different on a fundamental level. Meanwhile, at Class B, a student was lying on the ground injured, while the blonde man earlier was at the top on one of the students yawning, since they were elites brought there under the direct recommendation of Ishinkai's executives. The blonde man mocked them, calling them scholarship students that lying on the ground as he knocked them, since he had no choice but to bet on someone. The blonde man was excited to meet Yoichi and called him by his full and real name.